Hi, Rachel Mayberry, Director of Marketing here at Heartspring. I'm with Erin, one of our physical therapists, and we're here to talk about toe walking today. But before we get started, I want to introduce you to Erin. Tell a little bit about yourself. How did you get to Heartspring?
Well, I'm Erin Bullinger. I've worked here for about 3 months, a little over 3 months now. I'm a physical therapist over on Pediatric Services. I actually did one of my my graduate school internships here last summer with Cheryl, and there was an opening, and here I am.
That's incredible. Well, we always love having our interns stay here with us. We've recently done an event and brought a speaker on about toe walking. So we wanted to talk about that on our page as well, to talk about what is toe walking and kind of the background behind that. So tell us about it, kind of give us an overview. What is toe walking?
So toe walking is a pattern of walking in which a kid walks on their toes, not putting very much contact through their heels. So sometimes you may see that more with their shoes on versus with their shoes off, but a lot of times they're just up on their toes every time they're up walking. And although it's a common misconception that kids will eventually outgrow toe walking, there's nowhere in the typical gait development that considers consistent or prolonged toe walking a typical thing. And we usually think of it coming from 3 different things: a musculoskeletal standpoint, which is where somewhere between your muscles and your bones, something's tight or weak, causing you to walk on your toes; a neuromotor standpoint, which is where something in the brain isn't quite working with the muscles, also causing toe walking; or a sensory piece, which is somewhere your sensory system is out of whack, not fully integrated, which is a lot of what we see here at Heartspring working with autism services.
Gotcha. So why is it earlier intervention for toe walking important, or kind of that early treatment?
The earlier you started out, usually the more favorable your outcomes are. So between birth and 3 years old, your midfoot isn't fully developed yet, and then by the time of 6, your heel becomes fully developed. So if you can catch them somewhere in that time slot, they haven't had time to get some of those overdeveloped features. So if you get them in early, we can help prevent some of those things, reduce the length of time physical therapy will be. And then also your gait pattern is mature by the time you're about 6.5 to 7 years old. So kind of going back to that same thing, if you can catch it before the gait pattern is mature, you'll have a lot more favorable outcomes. So a lot of times people will just wait for their kid to outgrow it, which isn't necessarily the best thing, because then by the time they do come to us, we're seeing some of the secondary effects of the toe walking.
Gotcha. So what are some complications if it does go untreated?
So when a kid walks up on their toes, they're not using their heel as the typical shock absorber that you see in the normal gait pattern. So not only when they come back down to the heel is it sensitive, but the whole midfoot where they're walking on their toes becomes overdeveloped because the bones and the muscles are overworked compared to what they should be doing. So that's kind of a problem in itself. It leads to a big shift forward in momentum, which leads to instability. So you see a lot of toe walkers, they're clumsy, they trip, they fall, and that's a lot to do with that weight shift. And then on top of that, they have some knee instability that occurs. They have incompatibility with footwear, because if you think about the foot overdeveloping and getting so wide, they don't fit into shoes that should be their size anymore. They have an increased frequency in injury just because things aren't functioning properly, they're clumsy. They can also have pain in their low back or all throughout their legs because the muscles aren't turned on properly. It can lead to osteoarthritis as they get older, and they'll just have an overall impairment in functioning. They're going to be inefficient with the way they walk. They're not going to be safe with the way that they walk and move. So you want to try to get some of these things figured out before we lead to some of those secondary implications.
So what are some easy tips for parents to help correct toe walking?
So one of the biggest things that I can say is, to correct it, you have to get in to a physical therapist to figure out what's causing it. Because I did mention those 3 different things that could be playing a role in it. So if you come to a physical therapist here at Heartspring, we can go through an evaluation and figure out ways to tease in what's causing the toe walking, so that way we can come up with an appropriate treatment. So I wish there was an easy way to say these exercises will fix toe walking, but that's unfortunately not how it goes. So when you come to PT, you'll have different treatments that we can use. We use kinesio tape to help facilitate and inhibit certain muscles. We use different bracing and wedging techniques to build the heel up, to get some of that heel contact, and then slowly over time bring it down. We also use different exercises to work on strengthening some of those muscles that have turned off. We like to stretch what's short and strengthen what's long. And then we can also use different things like electrical stimulation just to get the muscles firing right. And then on top of that, we'll also give a home exercise program that the family can do at home to help work on it. So unfortunately, it's not an easy or quick fix.
Gotcha. So you said you've been here about 3 months. What's your favorite part of working at Heartspring?
I really like being here with the interdisciplinary work. So the fact that I have speech, PT, and OT, and psychology all right there, it kind of helps to get all on the same game plan, especially because a lot of our kids here require that multidisciplinary care. So we can do co-treats, I can go next door and talk to them whenever I need it, and it's so much more efficient than waiting on hold forever or making a lot of phone calls and emails to all get on the same page.
That makes sense. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We always enjoy hearing kind of the expertise that's out there, and this has been incredibly informative. Give Erin a shout out if she's one of your therapists here at Heartspring, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.